Hey guys, welcome back to more HOA stories. In this video, my homeowner association neighbor illegally towed my RV from my property because I refused to lend it to her for a vacation. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one starts like this. My family is everything to me. My wife and kids make all the hard work I do for money worthwhile. That's why we've invested so much into our home. We have a beautiful house on a large plot of land. There's a swing set for the children, an outdoor kitchen, and plenty of room to run and play. It's a veritable paradise for the whole family. It's not just our house that we've put so much love into. A few years ago, we bought a nice RV. For our first trip, we took time off work, pulled the kids out of school, and drove across the country. We stopped at every roadside attraction and took silly family photos. The memories we have made in that RV are some of the best our family has. After our big trip, as silly as it sounds, the RV felt like a part of our family. We could not stand to let it go into storage, so we paved a spot for it and added hookups to the yard. At first, it seemed a little odd to keep the RV around, but the house practically obscures it from view, and we have tall trees for privacy. It turned out to be a genius move because over the years the RV has served as an extra bedroom for guests, a spare office, and a place to get some quiet when the kids get chaotic. Our place is secluded and just for us, and that's how I like it. Don't get me wrong here, we pay our taxes, volunteer and take part in the community, but we also value our space and privacy. That's why we bought a place outside of any property association. Living outside of an HOA gives us the freedom to put our RV in the yard and make exterior changes as we see fit. I couldn't have it any other way. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees. About a quarter mile down the road is the local HOA property boundary. You can spot the edge of association property because the landscape goes from rugged but beautiful rural land to generic sterile astroturf. Not all property associations are bad, but this one seems to control the appearance standards to an extreme. There's no character in their properties, and the rumor has always been that it's thanks to bad HOA management. Once they even sent out a flyer urging the entire town to follow their higher appearance standards. The flyer urged everyone in town to repaint and replace their sod with astroturf. It was ridiculous, and all of the locals turned it into an inside joke. Even though the perfectly manicured association houses were not to my taste, it was never of any of my business, so I tuned it out. At least, that is what I thought, until the HOA decided to come into my backyard. One afternoon, I was out in the yard using the outdoor kitchen. Nothing helps me relax like cooking outside. I was just about to put the steak on the grill when a voice tore me out of my meaty reverie. "Hello," a woman's voice called. I turned to see who was calling, expecting to see my wife or one of her friends, but instead I saw a stranger walking across my lawn. Can I help you?" I called, closing the grill to give this woman my attention. "Yes, you can. I'm Carrie, the HOA president. I actually live right over there." She pointed to the east. She chuckled. "We are neighbors and we don't even know each other." "Nice to meet you," I said, although I didn't appreciate strangers sneaking up on me in my own backyard. I couldn't help but wonder if this nosy woman was the person responsible for the infamous HOA flyer, but I was being as nice as anyone who had been ambushed could be. "Thanks. Well, now that we are pals, I have a favor to ask," she said. "Oh yeah?" I asked, now sure this busybody person had penned the flyer. "Yes, you see, the association is kind of like a family. We look out for each other. We share," she said. "How nice," I said. "And well, that's why I'm here to urge you to share your RV," she said. I was completely dumbfounded. I had just met this lady and now she was asking to borrow my property, expensive property at that. I couldn't believe her, but I did my best not to escalate. "I'm sorry, but the RV belongs to my family. We followed zoning laws when we paved the landing for it, and it's not going anywhere without me in it," I said. "The RV will be in safe hands. I'll be using it for a family vacation," she replied. "Carrie, you said your name was?" "Well, I'm sure your HOA has a certain way of doing things and you seem like a nice person," I said, although she did not seem that nice. "But my property is not part of the HOA and my RV is not a loaner. I'm sorry." "I don't think you understand the severity of this request," she said. "The HOA always shares and we are prepared to take drastic actions if our request is not fulfilled." "I'm sorry, it's a no. This is a standard HOA practice, to share recreational equipment like this," she said. "Ma'am, I don't think you understand. That is my personal property, all of this is my property, and the HOA has no bearing on it." I appreciate your interest in the RV, and if I ever change my mind about renting or lending it out, I will let you know. Carrie stomped her foot like an entitled child and then turned on her heel and left. What a pill, I said to myself. I had no idea where she got off asking to borrow a practical stranger's RV, but I was sure that that would be the end of it. Our property was outside of the HOA boundaries, so any more unexpected drop-ins would simply be harassment to my family. I put her out of my mind and got back to the grill. It only took 2 days for Carrie and the HOA to butt their way back into my life. I was at work when I got a call from my wife. She sounded erratic. "What's going on?" I asked. "The RV, it's gone," she said. I left work right away. When I got home, my wife had already pulled the doorbell camera footage for me to see. Luckily, it caught the tow truck and we could see the name of the towing company on the side of the vehicle, Tommy's Towing. I gave them a call. "Hello, Tommy's Towing?" A voice on the other end of the line said. "Hi," I said, and then I gave them our address and explained the situation. "Let me look it up," the voice said, and they put me on hold. A moment later they were back. "Yes, I found that record. It was authorized by one Carrie Smith from the HOA." "It was not her RV though. How did she manage to get it towed?" I asked. "I'm sorry, sir, it was authorized by the HOA and it looks like they cited a parking violation as the reason," they said. I was shocked and beyond frustrated. I stayed on the line to get the information about where the RV was towed to and then hung up in an absolute rage. I could not believe the nerve of that woman, first trying to force us to share the RV for her own vacation and now going to extreme length to actually take it away. She was completely out of line here. I fumed for a while until I could finally get my thoughts together. I drove down to the impound lot with my wife and paid a crazy fee to have the RV released. I felt helpless as I drove the vehicle that had once been my safe place back home. I felt like Carrie dropped a bomb on my life and I was left with picking up the very expensive pieces. By the time I pulled into our RV spot, I had only one thought on my mind: suing that crazy woman. I got the deed to the house, the records from when we put in the RV driveway, and the footage of the towing company. I took it all to my lawyer's office and told them everything. My lawyer listened patiently and then said, "She wanted it for her personal vacation?" I nodded. She sounds really fishy. I'm going to have my private investigator do some digging on her and we'll go ahead with the lawsuit on the grounds of harassment and the associated emotional distress, trespassing, and illegal towing resulting in damage to the RV and theft, my lawyer said. I instantly felt relief. Just hearing that someone would be looking into the HOA's activities and pursuing justice for what that crazy lady had done to my family instantly made me feel better. A few weeks later, the lawyer called with great news for the lawsuit. Their investigator had found evidence that this was not Carrie's first time misusing her HOA presidential role. It turned out she was running Quit the Racket using misappropriated HOA fees to fund her personal dinners and shopping sprees. She had also been shaking down other residents for access to their vehicles, vacation homes, boats, and more. I could not wrap my head around the length this woman was willing to go to take from others. They had testimony from at least 5 other locals whom she had harassed similarly. My lawyer said that it would be enough to open a separate criminal investigation against Carrie and all her dealings on behalf of the HOA. Long story short, we were successful in holding Carrie accountable for all the physical and emotional damages she had caused when she started demanding our RV. She was found liable on all counts and forced to repay the towing fees, repairs, legal costs, and for the distress she had caused. A restraining order was also issued that would keep her off our property and away from me and my family for the good. The other trial took much longer, but the result was worth the wait. She had ripped out, swindled, and tricked at least 9 other people in town and ended up being found guilty of fraud, theft, filing false reports, and multiple counts of harassment. Not only did she end up behind bars, but the HOA was forced to change too. First, she lost her position and then the entire board had to restructure and implement safeguards to prevent anyone from reaching her level of power again. The entire situation still makes my stomach turn, but at least I have the security of my personal safe zone, aka the RV, back. Plus, I know that a monstrous woman can never do what she did to my family ever again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video, since that would help me tremendously. And now please don't turn off the video, we have another banger of an HOA story. It is titled One Fire Department's Humble Fight Against an HOA, posted by user Zerbo. While I am fortunate enough to not live in a neighborhood with an HOA, I'm a firefighter for a suburban district that is chock full of them. Big ones, small ones, old ones, brand new ones, HOAs frickin' everywhere. For the most part, they are not a hassle. They gate off their private roads, but as long as they put a sensor on it or a padlock that uses our standard department key, it's not an issue. Enter the views. The views are so-called condos built in the late 70s, and as far as I can tell, the only view they have is of a freeway on-ramp and some eucalyptus trees. Sounds like pretty awful condos to me. Anyway, the views were built along a narrow road that starts and ends off of the main road, making one big loop about a quarter-mile long with a couple cul-de-sacs branching off. It's important to note that the driveways for each end of the loop are about 30 feet apart off of the same road. The views have a lot of older residents, so we are there semi-frequently for medical aids, people smoking out their kitchens when they forgot about the food they left on the stove, and even the occasional structure fire. Responding there is annoying though, because they build speed bumps about every 25 feet along this loop, so once you're in the views, you're not getting anywhere fast. Which is annoying, but it's a private road, so they can technically build as many speed bumps as they want. Enter the chain. About a third of the way along the loop from the first driveway, there's a chain across the road. Padlocked to a steel pole on one side, it's a generic master brand lock, to which we don't have a key. Why is it there? What does it do? Why would anyone build something like that? Well, the answer to all three of those questions is, who the hell knows? The chain has been in place as long as I've been working at this department, and no one can tell me exactly why it's still a thing. Phone calls to the HOA regarding the chain went unanswered and unreturned. The problem with the chain is its location. If we are responding to an address that's closer to the first driveway, but just past the chain, we would have to go the long way around to get there. The operative word here is would. When the pandemic was really ramping up in early 2020, we were at the views a lot. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a shift. Approaching from the main road, we always take the first driveway, because screw taking the long way. Someone called 911, so we are gonna get there quickly. That's what we are paid to do. So when the address came up on the other side of the chain, it was unanimously decided by us that we take the path of least resistance. Enter the bolt cutters. Every time we needed to get to an address past the chain, I would hop out of the engine, grab the bolt cutters and snap a link. Chain goes down, engine and ambulance go through. Simple solution. After about a week of this and many mysteriously replaced chains, the enigma of the chain was finally revealed. One night, as I have a hapless link firmly in the grasp of my bolt cutters, I hear a shrill shriek, "Stop!" A middle-aged woman comes speed-walking out of the condo right next to the chain. "I'm the HOA president. That's there for a reason." I want to hear all about that reason, but we are here for a response and the clock is ticking. So, snap, another link is broken. The chain falls slack and onward we go. We resolved that we will stop by her unit after we clear the call to let her know what a nuisance the chain is and that something needs to be done about it. This course of action was ultimately unnecessary, as HOA president took it upon herself to huff and puff after us as we drove away and came speed-walking up again as we pulled up to the response address. I went inside with the ambulance crew, but I could hear her shrieking at my captain outside. We wrap up the call, get the patient loaded into the ambulance, and she is still going off on him. What it basically boiled down to was that she took it upon herself to install the chain because she didn't want people using the road as thoroughfare. The reasoning behind this is an utter mystery to a rational mind because it's a loop that begins and ends on the same road 30 feet apart. No one is using the views as a thoroughfare. The chain got installed where it is because that is where her condo is. She demands that we just go the long way for addresses past the chain. We explain that it hinders response time. She does not accept this. It takes my captain asking her that if her unit was on fire and we were responding from the other direction down the main road, would she want us to take an extra minute going the long way or just cut the chain and get to her unit faster? She acquiesces that she had not considered this, but also refuses to do anything about the chain. War it is then. Every opportunity we got, we cut that damn chain, never maliciously, only out of necessity, but it was necessary to the point where it was getting comical. A pile of snapped chain links lay discarded in the gutter. She made numerous attempts at peace. What if we just notified her when we needed it unlocked? Yeah, no. What if we just cut a link on one end instead of down the middle? Sorry, middle is faster. What if she gave us a key to the lock? Sorry, but if it's not the department-issued lock, we are not gonna take the time to dig through the key box. One day, as I hopped out to gleefully cut the chain as always, something was different. Zip ties. Tired of buying new chains, or perhaps the chain fund had dried up, HOA president had resorted to zip tying the chain back together where we had cut it. She even attached a tag saying, "Fire department, cut zip tie only." After consulting with my captain, we decided upon the most prudent course of action. I did not have a pair of scissors on me, but I sure as hell had a pair of bolt cutters. Snap snap, dead center in one of the remaining length of chain. And so it went, as the chain got gradually shorter and shorter and became more zip tie than chain. Despite her rushing out of her condo when the engine pulled up to the chain, we were always faster with the bolt cutters. The chain has been fully replaced a couple more times, and the same cycle has ensued until one day last week when everything changed. Enter the gate. As we responded to the views, we pulled up to the chain. I already had the bolt cutters out and ready to go, only to be greeted with a most unexpected surprise. Where the chain had once stretched across the road, impotent in the face of our departmental onslaught, now loomed a two-arm swinging gate, a beefy one too. They definitely assessed some new HOA fees to pay for this beast. On cue, out came HOA President Karen. This time, she said nothing, only crossed her arms in defiance and looked on with a smirk. I assessed this new obstacle for a second, too thick to ram through, plus that would damage the engine, tubular steel mounted on concrete anchored posts, so no just lifting the gate off the hinge. "Looks like you will be taking the long way from now on," she said, clearly having played out this exact scenario in her head countless times since having the gate installed. And she would have been right, except the arms of the gate were secured by a length of chain wrapped around and padlocked. I looked straight at the HOA president as I lined up the bolt cutters on a chain link and the padlock shackle. Snap snap, I've never seen someone visibly deflate the way that HOA president did at that moment. I pushed the gate open and the engine drove through. As I climbed back into the engine, I heard her call out, "At least close it behind you." I probably don't need to tell you that I left that gate wide open. The icing on this cake is that we sent out the fire marshal to check it out, and while the chain technically met the definition for impeding emergency vehicle access, we let it slide due to it being so easily bypassed. The gate, however, was a massive violation of county codes. Despite being a private road, the number of residents along the loop in the view stipulated that any gate shall be automatically opening and have an emergency vehicle sensor. The gate fits neither of those criteria, so boom, 30-day notice to remove that crap or face massive fines from the county for impeding emergency vehicle access. So in summary, we waged a years-long battle against one HOA president's desperate grasp to control a problem that never existed in the first place. And if that does not capture HOAs in a nutshell, I don't know what does. And yeah, Ripea stars, I gotta say, I'm a little bit shocked that the fire department let this go as long as it could. I would have threatened the Karen with legal action or just already initiated legal action in the first instance of this happening. Impeding emergency vehicles is a serious offense, and she should have faced consequences for this way sooner. I mean, it makes for a funny story, but honestly, this could have gone very wrong. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments. I'm really curious what you have to say. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Racist Karen calls police when I swim near my riverfront property. I have owned a riverfront property for many years. So long, in fact, that my daughter was not even a thought at that point, and at the time of the story she was 12. I've seen many people move in and out during that time. It was the kind of area most people used as a stopping point between where they were and where they were going. Only some of us really loved it and stayed for a long period of time. Within the last 2 years or so, I noticed a different kind of change happening in the area, and I was wary of it. More homes were getting knocked down and newer, more expensive ones were built in their place. Along with the area going from a predominantly black neighborhood to seeing more white people move in. This story is not about the politics of all of that, so I will stop there and get into the story. One of the women that moved close to us was a total jerk. I will call her Karen for a very obvious reason you will see later. Honestly, I would call about half the new people moving in Karens. They all seem to have the same issue of being upset that black people live in the area, despite us being here way longer than them. I know casual racism like the back of my hand, and seeing these people across the street gripping their purses tighter just infuriates me. Karen was the worst of them all though, and flat out refused to believe that I lived there. One of the benefits of my property is that I have perfect access to river and pretty decent weather year round. This means that I've spent many years swimming around in the water and teaching my daughter as well. She is just as bad as me with her love for it and even wants to swim sometimes right after she gets home from school. This was a Saturday and she had gotten me out of the house and into the river with her by about 10 AM. We know she is a great swimmer but still don't want her out there without me or my wife with her still. That was when I noticed Karen staring daggers at us with her arms crossed. Me? Can I help you? Karen, you really don't have any respect, do you? This river is private property, you cannot just access it, and you just think you can do anything you want. Me, I own the house here for your information, Karen. Karen, oh please, you people are nothing but a bunch of liars. You just want to steal and take and use things that don't belong to you. I bet you're just gonna stay in the river until people leave their homes, and then teach your daughter how to break in and steal all the valuable items. Well, this area is changing if you haven't noticed, and your little routine won't work anymore. I have no issue standing up to a racist Karen, but I've seen and heard plenty of horror stories on the news. I told my daughter to go into the house and lock the door while I stayed outside with Karen. My daughter was closer to the house and despite Karen running after her, got in and closed the door. Karen, that is breaking and entering. I'm calling the cops right now. She did, and I stood right there and waited for them to show up. Karen kept telling me that I should be smart and run away before they came and arrested me. I was beyond angry and not about to let a racist win after coming at me and my daughter. The cops came and oh my god, I've never heard a woman talk so fast in her life. I could barely follow the story myself and I was there when it all happened. The only difference was that Karen was saying that we were a bunch of criminals that were illegally swimming in the river and broke into a house. When the cops asked her what house, she pointed to mine and the police started banging on the door. I was trying to interject that it was my house, but they would not listen to me and wanted a homeowner to open it. When the door opened and my wife and daughter were standing there, Karen went into another fit of saying that they were the ones that broke in. Even though my wife had no part in the story until now and Karen did not even know she existed. They forced both of them out of the house because now it was under debate who owned the house. Karen claimed she knew the owners and they were a white family that had just moved in. Me, officers please, I have lived in this house longer than almost anybody else in the area. She clearly has a bias because of the color of my skin. She scared the crap out of my daughter when we were just trying to swim. I don't want her to have to see any of this, she is just a kid. Officer, look, until we get this sorted, nobody is going into the house. And now I want to see IDs from everybody and that should help sort things. Wife, my purse is still inside and my husband would not have brought his wallet swimming. We need to go into the house if you want our IDs. I have no idea why this was such an issue, but that officer was set on wanting our IDs, but not wanting us to go into the house to get them. Also asking my daughter for an ID, which is something no 12-year-old is gonna have. At most she has a school ID, but that would once again be in her backpack and not really provide any information. Karen was using this as an excuse to say that we didn't have any in case we got caught and didn't want to be sent to jail. Another officer came and then we were finally allowed to go into our own home under supervision. Being watched carefully as I got into my wallet and my wife got her purse to get our licenses. Then we were forced out of the house again until they could be checked over and confirmed to be accurate. After about an hour and a half of something that should have taken 5 minutes, the police reached their conclusion. Officer, okay, so it looks like they do live at this address. Ma'am, they are allowed to swim in the river and don't seem to pose any threat of theft or breaking and entering. They started to walk away, but I stopped them. Me, don't you want to know if I want to press charges against her? She made up a story just because me and my daughter were two black people swimming in the river. That's a hate crime. Officer, look, we didn't see her do anything to you as far as we are concerned. She is free to go. If you have an issue, take it up as a civil case. Me, actually, there are several signs around here that say no trespassing. I'd like to press charges against her for that. I could tell that the police were not too happy about the fact that they were going to have to make an arrest potentially. They probably saw it as me being petty, but I really didn't care. I wanted to set an example to my daughter that a racist cannot just get away with everything she does. That the law applies to everybody and I had a right to have her arrested. Of course, she was outraged, saying that she was not trespassing since she was just trying to stop a crime. Turning almost red with anger as I saw her get put into the car and taken away to the station. Since it was a minor crime and she didn't get sent to prison or anything, but it was now on her record. I'll have no issues calling again if she steps 1 foot on my property or talks to my daughter again. And yeah guys, these entitled Karens think they can just step on private property and then get the owner of the property arrested. That is some serious mental gymnastics if you ask me. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.